If you look inside the hard drive of any game developer, you won't find a gallery of shiny, finished masterpieces. Nope, you will find a cemetery. It's a dark, quiet place filled with folders named things like New Project 3, Test RPG Actual Final, and my personal favorite, Untitled Idea Do Not Delete. For every hit game you see on Steam, there are thousands of these silent, half-finished ghosts buried forever. Millions of hours of work just gone. Why does this happen? We love to blame a lack of time or bad luck or maybe coding being too hard, but the truth is much more interesting. Making a game isn't just a battle against computer code. It's a survival challenge against your own brain. And this struggle almost always begins the same way. With a brilliant idea, you can't stop thinking about it. It always starts with a spark. An amazing, perfect idea that pops into your head while you are in the shower or trying to sleep. You think, this is it. This is the game that will change everything. We call this the honeymoon phase. In the first week, you are a god of creation. You open a blank project and progress is lightning fast. You press a button and a little red square jumps on the screen. It is alive. You feel like an absolute genius. There are no bugs yet, no difficulty math, and definitely no boring menus to design. It is just pure, unfiltered imagination. In your mind, you can already see the glowing reviews on Steam and the millions of players enjoying your masterpiece. Your motivation is at 100%, and you are working late into the night because you simply cannot stop. It is the best feeling in the world, but here is the trap. When you are flying this high, it is easy to lose your ground. You start thinking, if making a jumping square was this easy, why not add some more running? And what if the square had a sword? And just like that, without even realizing it, you'll invite a monster into your perfect little world. So, you are riding high on that new project energy. Everything is going perfectly, but then a very dangerous thought popped into your head. Hey, what if I added just one more feature? In the game dev world, we call this scope creep. I know this monster very well because I live it. Years ago, my friend and I started making games together. We had very little experience, but we had unlimited excitement. Every time we got a tiny simple idea, we immediately started adding more and more things to it. My friend loved to create these giant beautiful spreadsheets, listing hundreds of features, items, and levels for the games we haven't even started coding yet. It was a nightmare to finish, and honestly, we never did. In game development, it always starts like this. You begin with a simple, cute idea, like a pixel cat jumping over fences, but then you think, what if the cat had a sword? And what if it could level up? And before you know it, you are trying to make a massive multiplayer RPG with a complex economy. Today, my friend has learned to control himself and avoid the spreadsheet trap. But back then, we didn't know that we were building an impossible mountain. While you are busy dreaming up this giant universe, you forget that some human actually has to write the code for it. And very soon, the fun of dreaming stops and the real work begins. So, you have this amazing idea for your giant cat RPG. You can clearly see the grand battles in your mind. You sit down, full of energy, and write the code for the sword swing. It feels amazing. You are a genius creator, and then reality enters the room. Because a game isn't just about swinging swords or jumping over clouds. Suddenly, you realize you need a main menu, you need a settings page. Have you ever tried coding an audio volume slider that actually works? It is surprisingly painful and not romantic at all. And what about saving the game? If the player turns off their console, their progress needs to be there when they return. Writing a save system is about as exciting as filling out your tax forms. Then come the bugs. Your cute jumping cat keeps falling through the solid ground. You spend 3 whole hours adjusting invisible collision boxes, only to realize the cat's now permanently stuck in a brick wall. This is the exact moment where game development stops being a magical creative dream and starts looking like, well, a regular office job. The dopamine rush of making cool stuff is completely gone. But surely, once you clean up these little details, the game is basically ready, right? You are so close to the finish line, or at least that is what your brain wants to believe. So, you survived the boring stuff, the menus work, the saving system is done, and your game is about 90% complete. You can see the finishing line. You start dreaming about your big launch. This is it, right? Just a tiny bit of polishing left. Well, welcome to the most painful trap in game development. There is a famous joke in our community. The first 90% of the work takes 90% of the time, and the last 10% takes the other 90% of the time. Yes, the math makes no sense, but the pain is very real. This is the moment where your game is almost done, for an entire year. You are fixing a tiny bug where the player falls through the floor, but fixing it somehow breaks the game lightning. You fix the lightning, and now main character's head is spinning around like a horror movie. It feels like trying to put a fitted sheet on a mattress, but the mattress is alive and angry. This is the true climax of the struggle. This is where your passion, which felt so endless at the start, completely runs out. The game is no longer a fun creative hobby. It is a giant pile of microscopic problems staring at you from your screen. You realize that finishing this will require a level of discipline you are not sure you have. So you make a choice. You close the project, shut down your computer, and walk away. But before you feel too guilty about that, so you are staring at your screen, exhausted, and you realize you just can't finish this game. You click save, close the folder, and never open again. It feels like a massive defeat, right? You feel like you wasted months of your life on absolutely nothing. But let me tell you a little secret. Giving up can actually be a superpower. And I'm not saying that just for dramatic effect. In the game industry, we have this big dramatic word, cancelled. It sounds like a total disaster. But stopping a project that is draining your energy is not a failure. It is a smart decision. Even the biggest game studios in the world have huge graveyards of cancelled projects. They don't cry over them, they use them as stepping stones. Think about it, when you work on that half-finished game, you aren't wasting time. You learn how to code a jump mechanic, how to design a beautiful level, or how to fix a stubborn bug. Those skills don't disappear just because you didn't upload your game to Steam. You still got the experience points. You level up in real life. Your abandoned project is not a tombstone. It is just a sketch into your notebook. A necessary practice run. Letting go of a project that doesn't work makes room for the one that will. So does this mean we should always give up when things get hard? Absolutely not. It just means we need to change how we play the game. And luckily, there are some very simple practical ways to make sure your next project actually sees the light of the day. So, how do we actually cross the finish line with the projects we want to keep? Here is the strategy real studios and solo developers actually use. First, define your MVP, your minimal viable product. Describe the finished game in one honest sentence. Then list only the features that sentence needs. Everything else goes on a maybe later list, not a promise. Give the project milestones for each feature and a real deadline for the release date. Think of it as if you are doing it for the outside client. It needs clear dates, constant progress reports, and real commitment. Next, build the core loop prototype. The smallest, roughest version of the action players will repeat most. Test it before spending time on menus, polished art, or visual effects. If that loop is not fun, no amount of polish will save it. If it works, protect it. Then create a vertical slice, a small polished gameplay fraction of the full game. That proves what the finished game can feel like. And from there, lock the scope. Once the game is playable from start to finish, every new feature must replace something of equal size, rather than simply being added on top. Break what's left into tasks you can finish in a day or less, tracked on a simple board. To do, doing, and done. Keep bugs separate from features, and fix real launching blockers first. Crashes, lost progress, anything that ruins the core experience. Fix the save bug is a task, finish the game is a wall. And finally, play tests with strangers, not friends. Hand the build to people who did not make it. Sit back and watch in silence. Fix the problems 3 different people hit, not the one opinion you happen to agree with. Code testing catches more real problems than 100 hours of polishing alone. Use version control to keep backups, and write a short release checklist. When the game meets that list, ship it. You can patch it after launch. You cannot learn from players while it is strapped on your hard drive. And once it's out, do what every professional studio does. Write a post-mortem. 3 things that work, 3 that didn't. That single habit is the real difference between a graveyard that keeps growing and a shelf of finished games. So, pick one tiny idea, define your MVP, and cut bravely until you reach it. It will not contain everything you imagine, but it will exist. People will play it, and you will know exactly how to finish the next one. That is the real victory. Now go, make something that I can play.